Hey guys, Savage Joy from Real Progressives joined with Niko House tonight. You guys probably know Niko from the DNC lawsuit, speaking out about Seth Rich, also having his own podcast. He's really well known in the progressive activist world. So thank you so much for coming on, Niko. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Joe.
Absolutely. So, as far as the fraud, lawsuit and everything, I know a lot of us took it hard when we found out, the initial decision. There's kind of been some mixed, statements going on. Some people are saying it was appealed. Some people are saying it can't be appealed. Do you know what the status?
Who said that? Yeah.
Social media. So
yeah, of course, social media. I know they're the arbiter of everything. That they don't even. And what's crazy, it's not like me, Liz, and Jared are like super inaccessible. We do a pretty good job responding to our messages. I mean, it may take a little long, but it's appealed. It's actually in the process of being. The paperwork for the official appeal has been filed, and the whole reason that Jared wrote his book was so that they did not have to fundraise at all from anyone, and the proceeds from the book. I believe he named it What Really Happened. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It slipped my mind. Something to that extent. Anyway, the proceeds from that are going to go towards the lawsuit from this point going forward so that we don't have to fundraise, because they really, really, really have made a point not to fundraise from anybody because they just wanted to take care of that situation with the finances that they raised from the book or from their own law firm.
That's a really good idea. I actually didn't know that, so I'm glad I do, because now it's even more of an incentive to buy the book.
Exactly. So go out and pre-order if you have not pre-ordered it. It was like #1 on Amazon for politics for like a week or two in pre-orders. Yeah.
That's
so I'm
awesome.
excited about
so
it.
Hopefully people will get
He hasn't
that.
let any of us see it. He hasn't let any of us see it. So y'all, we're seeing it at the exact same time you are. Jared's weird like that. So.
Well, so when it came out, what was your reaction? Did you expect us to win that first time, or were you?
Oh, absolutely not. Me and Colin, who is one of the co-counsels in Jared, we all knew it was going to go. It's likely going to go to the Supreme Court. We prepared for that from the very beginning. We're not naive. Jared, especially, if any of you have ever seen him tweet or go on Facebook, he is extremely critical of the legal system. He knows that the legal system is just as corrupt as the political system. And when you're dealing with federal judges, appellate courts, and Supreme Court judges, it gets even more political. I mean, it doesn't just stop being they're nonpartisan, but in reality, we know that, like, for example, the the Attorney General for DC was bringing charges against Trump that he refused to bring against Hillary Clinton. So even they have their motives, they have their agenda, and at the end of the day, their sights are set on that Supreme Court seat as much as a representative sights are set on the presidency. And but luckily, just like what we've seen recently, if you keep pushing, you keep moving towards that goal, eventually you put the pressure burst pipes, and somebody is going to yield. And hopefully at this appellate court, if we have to appeal again, then we will do so. But it's become pretty clear that evidently monetary loss is clear and evident at this point. We shouldn't be debating that. That shouldn't even be the topic of discussion. It really should be how we're going to deal with it and hold people accountable.
Absolutely. And I think, it kind of sidebar a little, but when Donna Brachel came out the other day, I think part of that is because people like us and our viewers didn't let up. We kept on their asses for over a year.
Yeah, well, if you can recall, the moment that she was announced as being the one of the people on the Rules and Bylaws Committee, it was almost like we spit out our drinks simultaneously. We're like, what the hell? How is that even possible? This woman literally violated the rules, and now she's on the Rules and Bylaws Committee. Now, that whole gaggle, I don't know exactly what her ulterior motives are. Some people who have worked in or around, like in her vicinity or around her, have told me that she's actually not a bad person. She is ambitious, but she's been, which I can actually understand and relate to as a black man, she has been put in situations where it's either she does exactly as she told or she's not given any type of voice whatsoever, which is a tool that the Democrats have constantly used against minorities. So that actually would not be very surprising to me. Now, with that being said, I do believe that Donna Brazile has ulterior motives. I do believe that her book is kind of saving her money right now, to be totally honest. But I also don't think we should discredit her, because she has been giving us little gems. Like the fact that she decided to dedicate that book to Seth Rich is actually a much bigger deal than what people are pretending it is. She didn't have to mention Seth Rich at all. And in fact, it would have been smart for her to not mention Seth Rich. Like, if we know anything about what Rod Wheeler has told us, he spoke about the fact that he had spoke to Donna Brazile, and she immediately was like, no. She was very dismissive, didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to discuss it, and then called the family of Seth Rich and told them that Rod Wheeler had been in touch with her, and they were like, yeah, we know, we told him to. And essentially, it was just like she was very defensive and dismissive. But the fact that she would call him a patriot in everybody else's minds, if you've been paying attention, would have to immediately question, why are you calling this man a patriot if he just died, in a botched robbery? Right. Clearly, somebody's narrative is a lie. And, like I said before, if the burners and those in progressives were right about what had happened and transpired during this election, what else have we been right about that continuously trickles out as time progresses? And that's probably one of the things that we have been right about thus far.
So what do you think her, and did you also see the tweet she sent out that said something like, people don't know what it's like to have lost a baby? I did. His name was Seth Rich. Or lost a child.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what that was about. That was just weird to me.
That was so weird.
And they were at odds, by the way. For those of you who don't know, Rod Wheeler made it very clear that they were at odds. Donna Brazile and Seth Rich did not like each other. Rod Wheeler has already come out and said that. So, but that's, once again, it looks like she's trying to position herself ahead of something that is about to come out about that entire situation that she does not want to be held accountable for.
And did you see how today Donna Brazile called Hillary's people a cult?
Yeah, she called them a cult. She said that her campaign, the heads of her campaign, were very sexist, which we know. I think that anybody who's been paying attention should know that. But yeah, I mean, it is a cult. There's no rationality in anything that they do, any decisions that they make. Winning it doesn't even appear to be the end goal, to be totally honest with you. So I have no idea. What else would you call it? The game where you play and no matter what, you're going to lose. That's what we would call a cult. Okay.
Right. It was just kind of delicious to hear them admit it.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty nice.
Somebody pissed off Donna. I'm going to put it like that. Somebody pissed her off. She didn't get a position that she thought she was going to get. She didn't, maintain a particular step. They probably cut her off after the campaign. And she said, you know what? Got something for y'all asses. I'm snitching on everybody. Everybody getting snitched on. And by the way, I didn't do anything. I was just a victim of this whole thing. And that's pretty much what happened. That's pretty much what she's pretending is happening.
Questions, though. And then she lied about that shit. She was like,
yeah, that was weird.
I won't be persecuted because I'm a Christian and I know what it's like for Jesus to be persecuted. And then she comes out and says, oh, guess what? Yeah, I lied. I did leak those questions. So
yeah,
I can't feel bad. And the way that her statements read are so contrived. Nobody speaks the way that she said she spoke. It's just so contrived. And I really feel like she's saving her ass from something. It can't just be about money for the book deal because.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of things going to be coming out. The book deal, I think, was part of it, but clearly she started writing this book before the last couple of months, and so I'm sure that there are things coming down in the future, or that could potentially come down in the future that she's totally trying to avoid. And to be totally honest, and this is partially what Donna Brazile is doing right now, I think is why Bernie Sanders hasn't talked, why Hillary Clinton won't bring it up, why nobody will bring up the lawsuit, which is that if you have a smart lawyer, you are being told to shut the hell up, or else you're going to be caught in a situation where Donna Brazile is right now, where she apparently forgot about the lawsuit and now is probably going to be caught as a key witness because you just told the whole world, yeah, not only was there monetary loss, but we laundered it through the party after lying about it and saying we were totally unbiased. And then there was a whole monetary plan offered for one candidate that was not offered for the other to give them total, complete control of the staff. So, I mean, that's pretty important, which is why everybody else's lawyer probably like, yo, shut up until we figure out what's going on. Like, even with, like I said, Nina Turner, Bronco, everybody, and this is just from a total legal perspective, whether it's right or wrong, they're told to shut the hell up. If you are innocent, you're told to shut the hell up. Because that's what a good lawyer will tell you to do. So, and I imagine her lawyer did not relay that message. So then she had to double back because she forgot eventually she would be put on the stand and potentially held accountable for her actions as well, because she is going to be asked about that type of stuff. So
now, since you live in Florida, how is it? It's
hot. It's hot. 70. It was 80 degrees today in November.
That's nice though. I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah,
are we kind of sensationalizing things here, or do people talk about this kind of stuff like where you are as well?
Oh no, you're not. To be honest, the conversation is about Debbie Wasserman Schultz is constant. It's not an exaggeration. Tim Canova and Debbie Wasserman Schultz are constantly at odds. It is a ongoing battle down here in every sense of the word. Everything that happens at the local and even the, like the county levels and the state level, it all goes back to Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Tim Canova's race. So it's reality. It's kind of cool to be down here while it's all going on. That's the reason I actually moved into the county that I moved into, because I wanted to be a part of it. And hopefully Tim can pull out this race. But I'm also not foolish. I understand how corrupt this justice system is. I know that he's still dealing with the corruption from the last election. And so, but we are going to continue to fight because Tim is what's right for Florida and he's what's right for this country. And if he managed to gain a foothold in Congress upon Bernie deciding to rerun for 2020, that would actually be huge for us, because that would be replacing one Bernie Sanders with another potentially. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that because it seems like Clinton and her shills are invincible a lot. Do you ever have moments where you're just like, it's going to go down. It's finally going to go down.
I'm a very, very patient person. I'm not I've worked in the law before, and I've worked in politics a little bit longer than a lot of people who have just kind of entered recently within the last couple of years. It takes a while, and you really do have to be patient. Even for me, this whole thing that Donna Brazile just released, that's, TYT is just now reporting on, because, oh God, we didn't know, even though I called y'all motherfuckers. That's a different discussion for a different day. But I literally was on the phone with them, telling them exactly how the Hillary Clinton fund was spreading their money throughout the states that they were spreading it to. And I even called them and said, hey, there's someone on Bernie Sanders' campaign right now who was a state director who approved the funding from the Hillary Victory Fund into Vermont before she left the Vermont Democratic Party and worked for Bernie Sanders' campaign directly. They knew this. But like I said, things happen as they're supposed to, and they happen at the right time. At that point in time, what would have happened? Nothing. That's to be totally honest. People would have been more aware, but we were already aware of it. Luckily enough, people like Tim Black, H.A. Goodman, and those alike had used their platforms to grow awareness about the Hillary Clinton Victory Fund, and myself included. And now when it comes out, it's even crazier, because we're like, told you, where the hell have y'all been at? And as much as I would have loved it to come out at that point in time, it came out when it was supposed to, and it's even more meaningful now because we're in the middle of our lawsuit, where we were just told that there was no monetary loss, or at least no legitimate proof, or that we need to show a bigger connection, a more significant connection. And now we know that Donna Brazile admitted there was an agreement where monetary misappropriation of funds was agreed to that was outside of the agreement that Bernie Sanders and the DNC had originally made.
Absolutely. Has Jared and Elizabeth said anything about, can we introduce those things into our case, or is it separate?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about law, that's what I always tell you, to shut the hell up. You have the right to remain silent, or risk shooting yourself in the foot in court for being stupid. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Maybe some iteration of that. Not that exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's how it goes.
Oh, that's awesome, because I know sometimes you can't enter other evidence to cases that already exist. So
except for in this matter where they said specifically that there wasn't a strong enough case to connect that particular issue. Also some jurisdictional stuff, but they said that there wasn't a strong enough case in that particular scenario to make it clear that the federal court was supposed to be dealing with it. So now there is clearly a strong enough case. So
were you able to go to any of the hearings?
Yes, I did.
Day?
I went to 2, I believe. I went to the last one. I went to the last one, and then I was going to go to the next one, but he ended up obviously sending down the order. So the next one that they will have the appeal hearing, I will go to.
And do you have any date frame?
No, we don't have a date yet. We don't have. Trust me, if we had a date yet, you all would already know about it. As soon as stuff comes down, Liz and Jared do their best to get it out ASAP.
Well, it's funny because I became so obsessed with that lawsuit. I printed out all 123 pages of that transcript. I read it 3 times. I highlighted shit. I wrote the marges. Like, it was just astounding, some of the shit they were admitting. Like, the lawyer was not only incompetent, but unabashedly stupid as well.
Believe it or not, that is actually a common trend amongst Ivy League attorneys. Believe it or not, that's one of the reasons that Jared left. I'm not even joking, because they all end up developing this corporate mindset where it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, they do things in a very specific order, and they're all put in like like a mouse wheel, and they're all just cogs in the machine. So they don't think critically. They go by kind of like, I don't know what they don't think. They just do as they're told, and they do as they're told until they get their opportunity to be in the position that they're in right now. And then eventually you'll become attorney general, and now you know why half our attorney generals are idiots, because they're all corporate. They were all at some point corporate attorneys where they didn't have to think critically. A bunch of people did it for them. They just did the paperwork, everything that. And what's crazy, because Jared actually told me, he said, I know exactly how they're going to do this case. They're going to try to dismiss it on something frivolous, which didn't work with the Sean Lucas situation. Then they're going to try to dismiss it on ridiculous grounds. They're going to make a bunch of claims that aren't true. We're going to have to appeal it. Like, he knew it was going to go down like this. So he's still pissed, more so about the reasons that it was dismissed. But it wasn't dismissed, of course, with prejudice. And so that's why we're able to appeal it and even bring it back to his court if we chose to. So, patiently waiting for that. Liz and Jared are working diligently to get that case all taken care of, and we will be back.
Well, we wait with bated breath, that's for sure. They are, all 3 of you guys, like, we are, tuned in. We are looking to you guys because we don't have the ability to do these things. So we look to you guys, and you guys are championing you know what I mean? You're speaking for all of us.
Well, I mean, to be totally honest, that's really all we had in mind. I mean, we were rattling our brains every day for hours. Me and Jared would sit in that legal office for hours and talk about, we have to figure out some way to hold these people accountable. We have to do something. We're in a position to do it. We need to figure this out. Because we have all this information in front of us. We had a research team that was helping us find all this information out about the Victory Fund and things like that. We had people calling in. I'm spending hours on the phone. Jared and Liz are listening to me ramble about just everything we were finding out. And that's when I came up with the idea. I was like, holy shit, they're a corporation. And it just like, sometimes the obvious things, you don't realize until it's like, and that's what the situation was. And then once that happened, we got the ball rolling. And but most importantly, whether or not we want to lose, we already won. It's the same thing with Bernie Sanders. Whether or not he won or he lost, look what resulted because of it. And it's the same thing. Whether or not we want to lose this case, look what resulted because of it. We know that they never cared. They were going to choose their candidate regardless. And so at that very moment in time, we know that the next step because of that is going to be that Rules and Bylaws Committee, and they're going to be trying to make changes. And so for those who are dementor, they know what's coming next. Hopefully, if they've been paying attention, then they start taking steps to prevent that from taking place. It's going to happen. They're going after that Rules and Bylaws Committee. They're going to try to change that charter.
Absolutely. And, they proved that in that, courtroom when they said that they were so-called allowed to do.
Yeah, which they're not. Which they're not, or else that would be their main defense. But it wasn't, because they're not.
And even if they were technically, it doesn't mean it's moral. It doesn't mean it's right.
It doesn't even mean it's smart. Let's take out morality, right? Why would you want the unpopular candidate to win? That's every time that the DNC has overtly interfered in these scenarios, they've always lost. And it's taken them almost a decade to recover. And they don't learn from history, but they continue to repeat it clearly because they don't learn from it. And now we have to deal. But one thing they have not dealt with was Bernie Sanders in the social media era. So that's what kind of messed them up. And like I said, you can dislike Bernie Sanders, you can love Bernie Sanders, you can feel anywhere in between. But at the end of the day, there's not really anybody better to step up and do it, because we do need to have a multi-pronged approach. I mean, and I also, like I said, I've been involved in politics enough to know I'm not an idiot. Bernie, he did what he did because he had a reason to do it. He knew that if he argued with the DNC, if he fought the way I wanted him to and that you wanted him to and that we wanted him to, he would be villainized. He'd be demonized. He doesn't care about us. He cares about, his own ego. Think about it. Think of how nice this guy is. How are we even having the conversations that we're having? The fact that people in Hillary's camp hate him actually scared the living hell out of me. Because how can you hate this man? If you've ever seen one of his speeches, there's literally no way to hate this man. You can criticize his policies, you can critique some of his positions, and you can very much so critique some of the things that he said of late. But how do you hate him? It's just very hard to hate somebody like that. But at the end of the day, if I don't know if you saw this, but there was a letter that ended up leaking out from Bernie Sanders to the Secretary of State for Kentucky asking for a whole recount to decertify the elections. Now, for the longest time, many people thought that he had made no such effort, which is why they were so upset. For the longest time, for some reason, there's this narrative going around that he never talked about fraud or wanted to condemn the DNC, even though he constantly says it's the DNC's fault they lost. And I specifically remember him saying, fire that bitch, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That was a thing. It happened. Mm-hmm. We have to really be pragmatic in how we approach going forward. Could there one day be somebody more progressive than Bernie Sanders? I hope so. There better damn well be. But we got to get to that point. And we have to take the energy that he has created, and I will give that to nobody but Bernie Sanders, although he says it's because of us. The truth of the matter is we wouldn't be talking right now if it wasn't for him. There would be no real progressives if it wasn't for Bernie Sanders. There would be no Mikasa Sukasa if it wasn't for Bernie Sanders. There would be no Carolina Sanders for Bernie. I would not have found out what was happening with Bernie Sanders, within the Bernie Sanders campaign with Hillary Clinton putting her moles in. We wouldn't know about the Hillary Clinton Victory Fund. Half of us wouldn't even know how the hell super PACs work if it wasn't for Bernie Sanders giving us that incentive, whether it be directly or indirectly. There is just so much to be thankful for. And at a certain point, you don't get to where Bernie Sanders got by being a simp, by being naive, and by not understanding when is a time to strike and when there's a time to take a step back, watch and observe, and to make your next move. He's not stupid. He made our revolution. Now Nita Turner's in charge. They got Green Party candidates elected yesterday, for people who do not know. Yeah, that happened. He's not stupid. He has a think tank that Jane Sanders is running, because right now he's not. You don't make a think tank only for progressive policies unless you plan on seeing those progressive policies enacted. He's planning on using those policies. He's planning on having them ready and raring to go the moment that opening comes, and he says, I'm announcing my candidacy for presidency. He's kept all of his options open because God knows we have no idea what political party is going to look like in the next 2 months, let alone the next 2 years. So
yeah,
he's not placing all of his eggs in one basket, and I can respect that from a strategic perspective. Do I want him to continue to talk about Russia? I mean, if anybody listened, he hasn't brought it up. It seems like to me that he actually talked about it so he can only say, yeah, but it wasn't Russia's fault. It was the DNC's fault. And then, do I agree with what he said about the chemical attacks in Syria? No. But it seems to me the only reason he said that was for him to then go afterwards and say, you know what? We don't need any more quagmires in the Middle East, his words, and that we shouldn't be fighting anybody until we learn how to deal with the situations that we're currently dealing with right now. It seems like he just uses their television time for free publicity, which in my opinion is goddamn genius. Now, I understand why people would be upset by that, and they want him to be just gun-ho, straightforward all the time, 100%. That's not the world we live in yet. You know, it's not the world we live in yet. I want it to be eventually. But we have to put people, not even just Bernie Sanders, but people in general, like Nina Turner, like Tulsi Gabbard, and those alike, who are at least willing to have the truth be told, if at all possible. Even if they're wrong, I'm okay with being wrong as long as your heart's in the right place. I'm okay with that. Nobody criticized Hillary because she was wrong. People make mistakes. Shit happens. What we are upset about is the fact that you use a nonprofit organization to destroy multiple countries and claim that as for charity. That's what we're pissed off about, right? So, I have my grievances with Bernie, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say my loyalties lie with him, but my loyalties lie with policy. And there's some policies that I can get behind and some that I can't, and I just leave it at that. But as far as him as a person, one of the best people I have ever met in my life. One of the most genuine people. I remember when he had his manager email me to tell me how well I carry myself and how much how intelligent I was and how well I understood the political arena, and it was totally out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, I don't even know why he even took the time to email me this, but hey, thanks, I appreciate it. This is a long time ago. So one of the most, him and his wife and his son, anybody that I've ever met with the last name Sanders, has always been a very kind, very genuine, very forward-thinking people, and they're more strategic than what people would think, and I will just leave it at that.
I am so giddy to hear someone else say the same shit I always say, because I get mad hate for saying I was at Occupy DNC for 6 days in 100-degree heat. I was marching with the signs chanting, "Hell no, DNC, we won't vote for Hillary." And I wrote Bernie in. Yay. But anyway, so I was there. I threw my Dem card, my voter registration in that casket. I went to the candlelight vigil for democracy. I was done. And when I heard him, say, okay, she's getting the nomination, it was just 40,000 of us just sobbing. It was heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah. It took everything in my power not to cry. I cried the night before, though. Not the day not the day of the count, but the night before. It was tough. It was tough. And what was tough about it for me was that I could see it. He knew he won. If anybody who was at that convention or was watching or was part of this, you can't sit here and tell me that the man who had the probably longest standing ovation in the history at a convention, oh, that's the guy who lost. You don't that's the guy who lost. Get out of here. It's and then the look of defeat, the day that they're like, oh, I can't believe he endorsed Hillary. But what they don't want to talk about is the fact that as soon as he suspended the rules and just passed the nomination on her, he didn't suspend the rules because he lost. He suspended the rules because he knew he won. He was tired of trying to fight back in that way because they had already rigged it. It had already been planned. There was absolutely nothing he could do. He turned his back. He suspended the rules. They switched over to Hillary. They panned over to her, panned back to Bernie. His back was turned. He was walking out of that convention. Yep. He wanted nothing to do with it.
Yep.
To tell me that that's the man who gave up, to tell me that's the man who wanted to support Hillary, to tell me that that's a man who, he copped out. He's the things that I hear about him, it's people with daddy issues. I joked about it on my status yesterday, but it's daddy issue people who have not settled whatever emotional issues they have with their parents or their mom or their dad, and they see him as abandoning them versus taking it as a political strategy that it is, because that's exactly what he's done. He we were getting our asses whooped the entire Revolutionary War until the very end. We were getting our asses whooped for the majority of the Civil War until the very end. Same thing with World War II until the very end. It is the way that a lot of these wars work. When people get cocky and they think they finally have the upper hand, the next thing you know, Trump is in office, and it's time to make your power play. Bernie Sanders had never ran for office once. And now, just like then, he knew, you know what? Okay, I'll be right back. But understand that I know exactly how to play your game now, and I know how to win it. Because he never loses the second time. He don't lose twice. He might lose that first time, but he's coming back. And that's really what we can't, people attacking his character, trying to say that, oh, he's weak, he's this. Because you have two people that critique his policy. Like, as a veteran, this is important to me because I hate that people are trying to misrepresent and lie. They say, Bernie votes for all these pro-Iraq war pieces of legislation. That's a fucking lie. And you all know it, but you're purposely trying to misrepresent it because you want everybody to be as angry as you are. What Bernie Sanders votes for is to make sure that while we were deployed, we would have the proper equipment because the bullshit Republicans and war-hawking Dems were trying to send us over there without it. What he was making sure that when we finally did come back from the war in Iraq and come back from the war in Afghanistan, that we were not killing ourselves because we cannot get in touch with someone for the suicide hotline. He was making sure that our TRICARE was still intact. He was making sure that our families were taken care of. He was advocating for money to ensure that our families were taken care of here while we were overseas fighting. Granted, Bernie Sanders was well aware that war was not fair, but he was also not stupid and naive once again. We were going to be there regardless of which way his vote fell, so that the very least, what he tried to do was make sure that we could take care of ourselves here at home when we return. So it's irritating and bothersome to see people pretend or misrepresent things that happen because of a vote without going into detail about it. But there's been this culture of people getting followers and gaining support off of being angry with no viable solution about how to go forward. And that's just not been myself. I've never been that type of person. Bernie Sanders has clearly never been that type of person. Jill Stein has never been that type of person, which is why she's never had a negative word to say about Bernie Sanders. It's either you want to move forward or you do not. And we can all agree that maybe this isn't my favorite way or maybe this isn't my favorite way, but that doesn't mean that they're all the wrong ways. You know what I mean? There's dim exit, there's dim enter. If you think that the same strategy is going to work at the national level on that and still work on the local level, depending on your state, you are naive and you've never dealt with politics before. National strategies and local strategies are not the same strategy. And that's politics 101. But there are people who are analysts, all the people that get a camera phone and they get Be Live or they get their Zoom or whatever their account is. You know, they interview some cool people and they're like, yeah, I'm a political strategist now. I know I just picked up this camera about 6 months ago and I didn't even know who the president was before George Bush and Bill Clinton, but I'm a political strategist now. That's how people start to believe it because they can read they can read paper, they can read statistics, but they don't know how to put them in context, and they do not know how to implement them as far as strategy is concerned or understand them to help other people understand why it's so important that we attack from multiple sides. Because if you think that either dim exit once again or dim enter is the only strategy, then you're naive because that's not how it works. It's as you can clearly tell from last night's elections where we had Green Party people, Democrats win, progressive. I mean, it was a great day yesterday. And once again, that's the result of people they got tired of complaining, stopped looking for Bernie Sanders to solve all their problems. They got up and did it their damn selves. And that's what I hope people start doing going forward.
Exactly. And I digress a little back, but it took me a while to actually, I don't want to say forgive, but deal with the fact that Bern didn't fight harder, but, more vocally about the corruption. But I think two things. Looking back, we all still kind of hope Schill might go to prison. So that's, and the way he worded it, he left it open still. There was some kind of technicality that he didn't say certain words the way they had to be said for him to be literally. Right. Mm-hmm. And then also she was fainting all over the place and having her issues. So I think maybe he thought she would have to bow out for health. So
Yeah.
I think that, but also I think, you know, when people hate on him for that, it's just so frustrating because, like you said, nothing would have come of it. Even if they took it to court and stuff, it still would have been happening now.
Yeah, the system is developed so that they have to fight the whole time. By that time, Trump's already president.
Exactly. And like, honestly, you're attacking a dude who could have retired more than 10 years ago. You're attacking a dude who literally planted the seed in millions of people.
He bought a $300,000 house. It makes me really wonder how many of y'all have dabbled in real estate. That's cheap as shit for a beach house. Just in case y'all are wondering. Like, he sold his house and they got a beach house. I can't believe Bernie Sanders got a $300,000. He's a senator. How much money do y'all think he doesn't? Like, he himself could have bought a $300,000 beach house without ever doing anything besides being a senator, let alone selling out. The things that they say, I'm just like, y'all are just really upset. Y'all want a hug? Because I'm here. Yeah. Come give me a hug. Because people are just upset. They don't know how to rationalize it. It's not simplistic. It's very complex. It's multifaceted, and there's a lot of levels to trying to understand what's going on. And it's frustrating for those who have never been involved in something like this, and it's frustrating for those without patience. Because it's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for me. I hate listening to him talk about Russia. I hate it. But I've talked to Jane, and I've talked to Levy. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to put it like, he knows what he's doing. Nina said the same thing. He knows what he's doing. Give him some credit. He's the best. It's like what he said at the People's Summit. He said, I hate those damn consultants. If I can give you one advice for running for office, don't hire a consultant, be your own consultant. I was like, I feel you, bro. I feel you.
Well, Levy is actually a close personal friend of mine. We talk on the phone a couple hours a week. Hi, Levy. So he's probably watching. But yeah, I'm always razzing him. I'm like, can you just tell your dad to sell one of his houses? I'm really sick of people harping on him about it. Because I'm like,
what's wrong with having two houses at 75 as a white man? He's like behind the power curve. Like, he's 74, 73, 74 years old. He's 76?
36.
He's 76. He should have 10 houses. He's a white guy. Like, he's a white man in Congress or in the Senate at that. Like, the dude was before, he was worth like, he's $300,000 last year or something like that. Do you understand how minuscule that is? For somebody who literally has everything paid for him because he's a congressman or he's a senator, excuse me. Like, that's people's perspectives a little warped. But like I said, people are just, they're reaching. He's not going to sell his houses because, you know what? Bernie Sanders worked very hard, and he deserves to have a house or two for his kids and his grandkids to be able to walk into as well. Because he's first generation descendant from Holocaust survivors. Like, there's no, I have generations of family wealth just hidden somewhere in stash. That's it. He is the last of his generation as far as his age group and his family members. So no. He and his brother, I think.
Yeah,
that's about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if he wants to take care of his family, I damn sure encourage it. He deserves it.
He works in DC and lives in Vermont. What you want him to stay in hotels half the time? Is that what you want him to do?
The dude's flying third class and they're like, oh, he's a sellout. Clearly, that's why he's always flying coach everywhere he goes. Like, come on. This is the things don't match up. If you're gonna critique somebody, at least critique them with some type of consistency. You can't complain because he bought a $300,000. You don't know how much a beach house costs in Miami, people? Millions. Not a couple $100,000, million. If a beach house almost anywhere else in the country would cost you millions. But y'all are tripping about a $300,000 house. Most of the time, people's houses cost 4, 5, 6, 7 times their net worth. And he has a $300,000 house that is like less than his net worth. Come on, people. We gotta be mad about the right stuff.
He has duct tape on his shoes, and you're gonna hate on him for having a house.
He's been wearing the same jacket for 15 years. I promise you. I'm pretty sure it's the same jacket.
It's incredible, but
he got a Vizio TV. He got a Vizio TV from Walmart. He was watching the debate on. I was like, "Come on, Bernie, get a Samsung. You deserve it." He was watching that thing in 420p. It's 2017, Bernie. Get a nicer house. You deserve it. Get a nicer TV. Something. But yeah, I got a lot of faith going forward, and like I'm sure you know, I said he was running in 2020. When people ask me what the hell's going on, why is this happening? I was always running in 2020. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, why else would he be staying all out in the public eye? Why would he be towing the line just enough to get on television and say exactly what he wants to say? Why else would he be going on a unity tour? Why else would he put this unity commission on the DNC? Why would he continue to care at all about the DNC after he made it very clear, for those of you who weren't watching, right after the primary, he said, oh no, I'm an independent. I'm going back, switching back. Fuck the DNC. Fuck Democrats. I mean, in more or less words. But that's what he said, essentially, was he's done with them. But he's not stupid. You have to, once again, if you haven't learned from his example, you have to attack it from multiple angles. They're constantly yearning for his followers. So what else better to do than, you know what, I'm going to put some of my followers in the DNC. Then I'm going to create our revolution, put Nina in charge of it, and have her get third-party candidates elected. So, okay, think about it. Once again, dude's a genius. He's a strategist. There's a reason where he is where he is. Why would I not learn from what I learned from with Hillary for America and Priorities USA? Didn't they do exactly what he's doing with our revolution? Oh, we're going to take all the support and all the funding and blah, blah, blah and put it behind Hillary Clinton. Okay, got some for your asses. All right, our revolution, we going to do the same thing, but with progressives. Get on it, Nina. I'll be back in 2019. That's essentially what he learned. He learns from his competitors, and he implements it in a better way that's more beneficial for everybody, because now it's not only he who will benefit. Like with Hillary Victory Fund, it was her little establishment cronies who benefited, and Hillary Clinton herself. So what better way to do it to combat fire with fire?
Yeah, that's a good point. That he's a master chess player. That's the way I always describe him. He is.
Like, I mean, for those of you who don't know, he legitimately is a master chess player. Dude like never loses, apparently, according to James.
Well, and also my usual comeback when people attack him is the next time you inspire millions and you literally take on a machine by yourself.
Very, very dangerous one.
Yeah, like, then show me the receipts and we'll talk. Until then, shut the fuck up. Back up.
At the end of the day, it's listen. How can someone be considered a sheep herder when he has literally thrown the Democratic Party into a hellacious spiral? If you think that's what the definition of a sheep herder is, y'all need to go back and review some history once again. People always they say I'm being pompous or condescending. In that particular case, yeah, I'm being condescending because it's pretty obvious that he's destroyed the Democratic Party as they know it. To the point where he has Donna Brazile coming out and saying, it was all that bitch's fault. I had nothing to do with this. I was just an innocent victim. She had me out here in the fields. I was trying to be with y'all, I promise. Like, everybody is telling on each other because of what he has done. That's not a sheep herder. He's destroyed the party. They have I don't even know how they plan on winning. They are in debt. They are about to be bankrupt. And that's if this lawsuit doesn't go through. That is not a sheep herder. Cory Booker, that's a sheep herder. Elizabeth Warren, she's a sheep herder, but she's actually bad at being a sheep herder. Yeah. Like, but those type of Kristen Gillibrand, all those types, those are sheep herders. Bernie Sanders is the worst sheep herder in the history of Democratic sheep herders, if that's exactly what you expect him to be. It's like, that's just, he's killing the party. He's killing it. Every time, like even with his Unity Commission, when they tried to slip those little, if those people had gotten fired, do you think we wouldn't have known? Like when they remember all the progressives that got fired merely for supporting Bernie or Ellison, do you think we would have known about that if we didn't have that Unity Commission in there? No. It was reported immediately because the Unity Commission was involved. Who put the Unity Commission there and fought for it to be there? Bernie Sanders did. Because he once again knows that defeating a machine that gigantic requires a multifaceted approach, which is clearly working.
That's a damn good point. I think, I don't know what it's going to take because now they are close to being bankrupt in the DNC and they care more about money than anything else. So I'm kind of wondering, what is it going to take?
It's going to be a huge power vacuum. That's for sure. I'm working on it, and I'm working with some close people. We're starting a nonprofit to hopefully fill that power vacuum and deal with what's to come, because it is coming. And the last thing we goddamn need is for the Republicans to be the dominant party in the country. Ugh. So that's a different discussion.
Who did you vote for, if I may ask?
I voted for Jill Stein. I was at Jill Stein's private watch party in New York. Me and her were laughing it up together whenever Donald Trump won.
Yeah, I voted for her. I was able to meet her like a month ago. She was really nice.
She's the sweetest.
She is. She's very nice. So you were actually going to do an event on Sunday first, someone has a question. And she said Jared does not care for Bernie, which I think is an understatement. So how do you guys deal with that? Like how? I
mean, Jared is Jared and I'm me. Jared doesn't care for Bernie's actions, but he likes Bernie, but he doesn't appreciate what's taking place. And I understand his frustration. I don't think that he's wrong for feeling the way he does. Me and Jared, like Jared's his own. For some reason, people think that because me and Jared and Liz are like family, that we all can't have our own individual opinions. I mean, Jared's on one extreme, I'm on the other, and Elizabeth's kind of in the middle wearing her tinfoil hat. Like, it's just it's just how it is. Like, we're all separate people. We all have our own opinions. That doesn't mean we all don't have the same goal at the end of the day. And it's silly I just feel like people that's a very common thing. People, like, even, which I'm sure you're going to bring up, even Sarah Friels, like, one of the defenses that people make to me against Bernie is, but Jared said, I'm like, okay, Jared can continue to say that, and Jared will have his opinion, I'll have mine, and me and him will have dinner at each other's houses the next day. It's kind of how it works. And we have very long conversations, and we reach a lot of ground because we both have our very unique ways of thinking. That's how this lawsuit came into place. And so I will always encourage Jared to continue to think the way he does and think for himself. And I like that he keeps me grounded and I keep him grounded. So.
Well, speaking of her, so Sunday there was going to be this protest, the election fraud protest in D.C. I'm not sure if you guys heard about this, but Niko did renege on speaking at that event. And you're kind of like someone who would have been perfect to be there just because of, just because of your history a little bit. So if you want to kind of touch on it, because I think it's really, really, really important, not necessarily names or anything, but it's a really important thing that as progressives, we need to learn from. So if you just kind of want to explain why.
So first of all, I would never discourage anyone from going to that particular protest. Now, me personally, and as for my brand and for someone to use my name in something, there has to be a motive of progress and unity. And that's not what I was seeing. The orchestrator of the event was constantly bashing Bernie, but it was one thing to critique policy once again, because like I said, I work with people who critique Bernie's policy or what they perceive his policy to be going forward all the time. And we agree to disagree and we move on because we know there's a greater goal and life is bigger than Bernie Sanders. But what I don't like is when people, after you give them the accurate, correct information, totally ignore it. What I don't like is whenever people let their egos determine the direction of an event like that one in particular. What I don't like is my name being lied on, one. That's another thing. And what I don't like is whenever someone comes to me for advice about something, I help them out and then it's taken totally out of context. Just as a small example, so the orchestrator of the event messaged me or asked me to message her about why I feel the way I do about some of the things that she was saying. And I said, well, to be totally honest, is this protest an anti-DNC protest or is it an anti-Bernie Sanders protest? Because those are not the same things. And if that's what this is going to be, I'm going to be very upfront with you. It's not even for my love of Bernie Sanders that I wouldn't want to participate in that or speak at that. It's the same reason I wouldn't want to participate and speak in a women's march that was anti-Trump. What are we talking about? Are we talking about equity for women or are we talking about fuck Donald Trump? because that's not what I came here for. And it's the same. This, like I said, the same logic applied. Is this going to be anti-DNC plus how we move forward together, or it's going to be, oh, we're upset about the DNC because we already knew we're upset about the DNC. You're not telling anything slick to a can of oil. We know we're pissed, you know. But if it's going to be just, I don't want to deal with I don't want, because there's so many aspects of the DNC we can talk about, right? But you're going to talk about Bernie Sanders all the time, but you won't bring up Elizabeth Warren. You're going to talk about Bernie Sanders all the time, but you don't bring any informational things about Cory Booker, informational things about Kirsten Gillibrand. I mean, these people who are legitimately sheep herding people, but you're trying to you're trying to assassinate the character of the most, not policies, but the character of the most popular man in politics right now, and you expect to get a large turnout. You expect for people to, because then what happens when people ask you why you feel that way and you cannot convey that clearly, then you look like you're upset and you have daddy issues and you haven't quite dealt with those. And I'm not joking. This is reality. People project their insecurities and their shortcomings on others. It's just reality. And so whenever I had that conversation with her, and we actually reached an understanding where she agreed with me. She even tagged me in a post a few times apologizing for it, because it wasn't about Bernie Sanders as much as it was about bringing, especially when she's supposed to be launching a media organization. I take the integrity of media very, very, very seriously. And any of you who have ever followed me know this. And I'm not going to support someone spreading lies for likes and clicks. I refuse to. And so she agreed. A couple of days passed. I saw her promoting the event, but because she wasn't getting the attention she had liked, she just started bashing Bernie. And then she would use those posts where she was bashing Bernie and getting a lot of angry people who would probably never go out and vote and probably have never done anything in activism a day in their lives. She would post her, the event and the promotion she would do for it in those comments so that she can get more attention for those posts. So that's frustrating to me. And I didn't want my name to be used for that. But on top of that, she was slandering me and making posts about me and saying that I had threatened her, which I never did. And in fact, I even went out of my way to take copy and paste and screenshot, because I'm a screenshot king. Because I know, no offense to everybody, and I don't want you to take it that type of way, but I'm a black man. People will say a lot of things about me and automatically expect it to be true. It happened with Jordan Sheraton. It's happened with people in the past. It'll happen again in the future, because that's just what happens to us. I've learned to accept it. I'm still really good looking, and so I move on with my life. Now,
you got that going for you.
But in all seriousness, there are times. Yeah, and in all seriousness, no, that's really my way of coping with the fact that it is very difficult for me as a black man being in journalism for people to take my word as it is. I don't get the same love that Claudia or Debbie, Tim Black, same thing. Tim has to work 15 times as hard as anyone else to get the appreciation that he got at this very moment. He didn't wake up one day and have 100,000 followers. That's hours and hours and hours in. And me and him both take our reputation very, very, very seriously, because unlike Jordan Sheraton, I can blackmail somebody and dox someone and expect to still have my fan base the next day. It'll be totally gone. So, I keep screenshots. And so when I began to post those screenshots, because she decided to make a status claiming that I threatened her, she decided to block me. So clearly, I still have those screenshots if anybody's curious, by the way. But I don't threaten people. I don't have to threaten anybody. What I do say, however, is that you are not going to use my brand to lie. You are not going to use my brand to slander. You're not going to use my brand to defame. And you are not going to use my brand to be divisive or divide people, because I have prided myself on making sure that my brand is built to unify those. Even if it's on the left or the right, whether it's dim enter or dim exit, I always prefer to have that conversation and continue to engage with each other to figure out why we do disagree, or why we feel like our methods may, although they're different, why do I feel like my method's best? Why do you feel like your method's best? And we'll probably likely come to the conclusion that both of our methods are really good, and we should continue doing what we're doing with being very supportive of each other. And luckily for both, by the way, for dim exit and dim enter, I have seen that happening more and more and more recently, where they're like, what works in California may not work in Michigan, but you know what? We can damn sure support each other the entire way there. And that's the type of conversations I want to see. I don't want someone saying, to hell with anybody. Even if you're a city council member, who's a Democrat, that's like being mad at the McDonald's worker who's making $7 an hour because the CEO is preventing everybody else from making $15 an hour. Do you really think that $7 an hour McDonald's worker is in cahoots with the CEO? That's essentially saying the same thing. You don't hate someone based off of their affiliation politically. You attack, which is Nina Turner's. I love, that's one of her favorite phrases. You're hard on policies, but soft on people, and that's what we should be. And luckily, some people are they expose themselves a little bit more via their policy, but some people don't, and some people are now scared to even run for office because you have all this, this negativity surrounding being a Democrat, or even negativity in some instances surrounding the Green Party now. And I just want people to understand that we're only going to get to where we need to be through unifying. The left has always had that issue, and we think that one person is smarter than the other, but the left has always had ambition, because these are people who've come from very diverse backgrounds that have been held back a lot throughout their lives. And so ambition just comes key when you come from, you've been through nice schools, you've been getting great grades your entire life. You have these high expectations set for you, and the title becomes more important than the destination for those you're supposed to be bringing with you. That's been a problem with the left forever. It's the main problem that we saw with Hillary Clinton. And so I don't want to get there unless I'm bringing you along with me. I don't want to get there. Hell, I don't even want to get there if I'm not going to be able to bring Debbie Wasserman Schultz along with me. I don't want to get there if I'm not going to be able to bring Hillary along. I hate both of them with a bleeding passion. But somewhere along the way, Hillary Clinton thought that I have to make a difference by hurting people. And I don't care who gets hurt in the process, as long as I get what I want, because this is what I have to do to survive. We can't have another person thinking like that going forward, because we saw how dangerous that is. We can't allow the DNC to just be whatever it is. We can't, because they're dangerous. We cannot pretend like they're not the second biggest party in the country. It's like we can't pretend that the Republican Party isn't the second biggest party in the country. Like, we can't pretend that they are not influential. We can't pretend that they don't have people in powerful places that can affect the outcome of very significant decisions. Yes, we need to fight outside of politics. We need to fight outside of the ballot box. But guess who controls how much we can fight outside of that ballot box? Because I can tell you something. I've been through a lot in my life, and I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to take to the streets as much as anybody else, but a lot of you are not yet. Okay? Be very clear about that. It's very easy to say how ready you are behind social media, but revolutions are real, and the pain and the blood behind them are real. And if that's something you sincerely think you want to do without, totally over stretching the government, then we can do that. But a lot of you are not ready for that yet. So let's exhaust all of our options. Let's make sure that there is no other way. And then when it's that time, we can talk about that. But at this time, for the time being, we've been galvanized. We've been energized. We have very unique people in very powerful, unique places. We have voices in places we've never had them before. I mean, just look at the journalists we have out there. We have you. I mean, we have myself. Tim has been elevated, H.A. Goodman, and everybody, even Debbie and Claudia, even though we don't get along that they have their place as well. Even Sarah. And I told her in my message, I said, we need more powerful female voices in this movement. And I want you to be successful. Let me help you get there. And she made it seem like I was trying to silence her. I was like, I just want to see you, like I was trying to co-opt her message. I said, no, I want to see you successful. I don't want to see you silenced. That's total opposite, actually. And I just hope that people, take this as a lesson going forward, that it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be upset, but at some point we have to figure out what to do next. And that's all I am ever about. And for those of you who don't know me, whenever I discovered what was happening in the Bernie Sanders campaign, how many videos did you see of me being mad? And you saw me about 4 or 5 videos of me being mad. And then I said, okay, so now I'm in Jared Elizabeth's office and we're about to figure out what the hell we're going to do next. And it's time. And that's what the lawsuit came from, because I was pissed. Jared was pissed. Liz was pissed. And then we had to figure out where to go from there. Because if you're just angry to be angry, then you're no different than the Mick resistors, if you will. It's just no different. They're just mad, and they have no solution about how to beat Trump. They just want to cry and whine until they find something, until something just magically appears, like Trump is just going to mad. No, his demographics are real. They're not going anywhere. And more so, the demographic that hates the DNC is more real than they want to believe. But hey, if we're going to talk about how mad we are, let's take a step back. Let's get back to being pragmatic. Let's get back to being rational. Let's look at the system that is broken. Indeed, it is in fact broken. That doesn't mean we have to play by their rules. As we can tell, we've been undercutting. Look at Bernie. We've been undercutting, just like they've been able to find a way around their rules. We are able to do the exact same thing. And we just have to be smarter, be a step ahead. But the only way we can do any of the things that I've just talked about is if we're together. And that should be the message going forward for everybody.
Totally agree. Now, you just mentioned when you first went to Jared and Elizabeth's office, what was that evidence you brought them?
It was a lot. Initially,
you worked at one of the campaign offices, right?
Oh, I was the acting state director for the Bernie Sanders campaign for North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the evidence that I brought was, the final thing that was like over the top was that they claimed somebody within the official campaign had claimed that someone was fired, and they were not, and they didn't know that her and I talked very, very regularly. And they claimed that she was fired because they didn't want it to get back to the campaign that they had been withholding the canvassing materials from the volunteers. And then I found out that I was supposed to be introducing Bernie in, I believe, either Charlotte or Raleigh the next day, but they actually were checking to see when I was leaving for my spring break that year in college, so that I wouldn't find out that Bernie wanted me to speak. Because they didn't want me talking to him and telling him everything that we had experienced from the official campaign. Luckily, Jane and all of her brilliance had already been on it, so she already knew what was going on. She had been asking people all over the country if they trusted particular staffers, what have they experienced, and things like that. And when we emailed Jane, she was already on it. She was just like I expected her to be. So
she's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I know.
she is. Bernie's lucky. Bernie's a lucky guy. He's a lucky guy.
He is. When we were at in Chicago, I actually ran into her when I was running to the ladies' room and had like a breakdown because I was like, oh my God, you're our first lady. And she took a picture of my Bernie tattoo and texted it to him, and it was amazing.
That's awesome. Whenever I took a picture with her, which is funny because she almost didn't recognize me at first, because at that time I had like a thick beard and I had my hat on. That's how she remembers me, is from my clothes, which is how most people remember me. And then because it's been a while, like I cut off my connections to the campaign, not because I didn't want to include them, and I knew that's a very murky territory that you're talking about when I'm investigating, people within that campaign, and you're still trying to keep up the appearance that you have everything under control. So I totally understood that. But me and Jane had a little, we broke down together while we were taking our picture. And I actually said I was sorry, just because I didn't mean to cause the chaos that I caused, but my conscience is a little bit louder than my pragmatism at times. And she told me, no, don't be sorry, and know that Bernie and I thank you. Thank you for everything that you did, and we appreciate it, and we never forgot about you. And so, we broke down and we took our pictures, but they're not stupid. They know what's going on, and they never once were angry about me investigating, because they already knew, and they were finally happy that Jane said it. She said this during the campaign. She said, we know what's going on, but we can't say about it, because if we do, we're sore losers. That's why it's up to you. She said it at a town hall meeting. She retweeted that if Bernie, and then she, not only did she retweet it, but she pinned it to the top of her page and said, Bernie said, if I ever tell you who to vote for, do not listen to me.
Yep.
You can't, everything is not split out in black and white for us. They're a little bit smarter than that,
And
they know who they're up against.
Her and Levy have the ability to say a little bit more than.
Yeah, and if you ever follow Levy's Facebook, Levy's been adding a lot of people. There's a reason for that. Levy's doing a lot of talking. He's doing a lot of talking, and if you're paying attention, you know what's coming up next. And guess what? And if he gave me that opportunity, I'm dropping whatever the hell I got to do. I'm going to be the state director of Florida, and we're going to win. I promise you that. I will drop whatever I have to do to make sure that Bernie Sanders is the next president of the United States of America. And then in 2024, well, I can wait. If he's back in 2020, then I put 2024 off until 2028 because he's probably gonna want to finish out. I don't think Bernie's going anywhere. Actually, I think that he would actually serve a full 8 terms, and he would be very healthy the entire time. But after that, I'll be ready to carry on the torch if he's willing to have me, because I think what's important after Bernie Sanders is what we do going forward and how we take on the deep state. And that's something that a lot of people don't really want to deal with, but it's real. And somebody's going to take a bullet to the chest fighting that system. And it's not an exaggeration, and I hate to sound so morbid, but it's going to happen. They know they can't do it to Bernie. God, if they try that with Bernie, oh, Jesus, fuck the system. Everything's burning. It's burning to the ground. People know this. It's everybody who thought they were so angry at him after they saw that and realized in their head, holy shit, he's been on our side the entire time. It's over. I don't care. I'm going to jail. It's it. They're not going to take our hero away. But whoever comes next, that is the battle. That is the battle. And you're going to have to say a lot of things that Bernie Sanders could not say at that time. You're going to have to deal with a lot of realities that Bernie Sanders did not want to talk about at that time. But we have to deal with transitioning out of oil, because we know that we are relying on all that petrodollar, and that is reality. We're going to have to talk about these wars that we're part of. We're going to have to talk about making amends with these countries that we've utterly destroyed with our greed. I mean, there's a lot that we are going to have to deal with after that 2020 election. But let's get to 2020 first and then see where we go from there. And I think that we're on that right. We're definitely on the right path. And I want to say something because I don't want to hold you up much longer, but I'm a firm believer in energy, y'all. I think that whatever your God is, Allah, God, your higher power, whatever it is, I mean, one thing that all books and cultures preach is that they are representative and they look like us. Whether even if we're talking about Greek gods, they look like us. They act like us. They say God is made in our image. And well, it's because I believe that we are all that higher power, our collective energy. We're just borrowing from it at this very moment in time. And what prayer really is you putting that energy into something that you want so bad. And eventually, if enough people want it to happen, if enough people work at it, it will come into being. We were all so tired of that system. We all wanted something different. We all wanted to be where we're at right now. We had no idea how to make it happen. Its politics seemed like it was like you couldn't never get a grip of it. It was, yeah, but I have to know this person, or I have to run for office. Where do I even start? How can I make these connections? How can I be a journalist without working for CNN or working for Washington Post? How could I do these things and still keep my morality, still keep my values? And we all wanted it bad enough that Bernie Sanders, he didn't just poof come out of nowhere. I don't even think he expected to be what this movement turned out to be.
No way.
But if you've ever stood in a room and watched Bernie Sanders speak, if you've ever been in a room full of Bernie supporters or progressives in general, if you wonder why Donald Brazil is coming out right now, if you wonder why Bernie Sanders is still fighting, if you wonder why the People's Summit is still so popular, if you wonder why we're still talking about politics in November, a year after the election is over, when that's never happened before. That's never happened. It's because your energy and how you put it to use is that important. And if we keep wanting it, I know things seem unattainable, but believe it or not, it's closer than you think. And it'll always manifest itself in ways that you would never expect. And sometimes it just happens to manifest itself into a 74, 75-year-old white man. And sometimes it manifests itself into, a Twitter following that you never expected to have, and or a Facebook following. It happens in the ways you least expect it. So you have to maintain that faith. You work towards your goal. It doesn't matter if you think you're going to reach it or not. And I hope that even when things get hopeless, that's when you'll start putting your energy towards it more so. I mean, we're almost there. I know it's crazy to say, But our job is easy. Imagine being one of those, and there's a lot left. Those activists in the 70s and the 60s. This is an eternity compared to where they were at. There was no, let's just keep in touch via Facebook Messenger whenever we want to do a live stream together. That wasn't a thing. We are so much closer to where we're trying to go than they were 40 years ago, and they're still with us. And so if you're giving up already, if you're hopeless already, then you didn't want to fight. You wanted the easy way out. You wanted to benefit. And for the brothers and sisters who have been fighting all this time, I know that you probably won't, but take a break. Take a break. We got it from here. Go out and vote. Keep doing what you do, but take a break, rest. And us young folks, it's about time we started taking up that mantle, taking up the helm and fighting. Because we'll simply put, there's no reason that Bernie Sanders should have had to be the one to do what he's doing right now. It should be one of us. And hopefully afterwards it will be one of us. With that being said, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being on the right side of history, because we can tell our kids and grandkids and everything like that when they ask, what did we do, in 2016 and that fuckery, we can say that we fought for justice. So
we can say that we fought, and hopefully we'll be able to tell them that we won. And it may not have been that year, but like I said, I always tell people we won. That's why we're here right now. That's why we're still having this conversation. That's why this conversation that we're having in this stream still matters, because people are still pissed about what happened in 2015. And fight's not over yet, but as far as that battle, we won. We did. Now we just got to finish fighting, and we're going to win this war.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Niko. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
You do the same. Bye. Yay.